Welcome everyone to the 41st Health Teaching Workshop of the Kesh Foundation Spaceship Institute. It is Tuesday, September 29th, 2015, and I think we're ready to begin with Mr. Kesh at the Kesh Foundation Spaceship Institute. Hello, Mr. Kesh.
Good afternoon, good day. As usual, wherever you are listening to our programs. Today is another health program on the teaching of the Kesh Foundation. What we see and what we can explain in respect to the health teachings.
The question from Chris. For curing cancer by the CO2 bath, it is direct in this water?
First of all, we don't cure. Curing is the job of the doctors and is a matter of physicality. In the plasma technology, you process, which means you allow the magnetic gravitational field of the entities to become imbalanced. They process themselves. And we do not recommend or do not. The suggestion was that you use the water which has been passing through or has been in conjunction with CO2 as a process of balancing the emotional part, which usually leads to the reflection of the energy in the matter side, the physical side. So that's where it comes from. You balance the emotion, which is carried through the CO2, and with that you find a balance in what you call the energy of the system. You have to realize the reason for this is for emotional position, conversion of emotional energy to matter state. And that's what it's used for. And we have seen results of it. Yesterday we were discussing with Marco and Caroline the same. We do not recommend anything. We just explain to you what we see for observation from the others. And what we have seen as a case, different cases, we report to you what we receive, and it's for you to make a decision how it works and the way it works, and you report back to us or to the Kesh Foundation worldwide what you've seen. In the case of one of the followers of the Kesh Foundation, in using a CO2 spread as a paste on a piece of cloth or the paper, and then put, thank you very much. See you. Thanks for your time. You transfer the energy of this, what do you call it, the gas of CO2 on a spread in a bag. Then they have put a coil of nano-coated copper on the bag, and they have wrapped the bag in the pad, the pain pads, and they have seen a reduction, huge reduction in lymph cancer. The size of the lymph reducing from a certain size by a huge factor to a smaller size. So what this explains to us, and for example in this case there's been a motion of the arm which has been in problem because of the lymph for years or whatever. This is a report we receive, so we pass on, and that's how the foundation works. The process is how CO2 brings a balance in the emotional section of the body of the man, which its energy is so high that when it reduces in the matter state, it solidifies or creates solidification or brings the matter state at a higher level which the body is used to, and we call it the cancer. With putting the CO2, sheet or pad on the point when there is a cancer, you bring the balance in the emotional side of the system, and in that point, the system does not receive higher strength fields for it to grow. And so it has to compensate back to a certain size where it sits within the balance of the energy. So as you see, you don't cure. You allow a process to take place, which that process leads to reduction in the magnetic field, gravitational field, the strength of the cancer lump. You have to understand the activity, not just looking for a result. If you have a what do you call it, non-malignant cancer, which means it's not going somewhere else, is isolated to one ball, to one section, these are usually physical. Data from different research shows the same thing. Because you put a CO2 sheet, the way it was shown by Renan, over it, now you change the environment of the matter. And if you look what's on the board, you have a point of, let's say, 10 to the power of 7. That's where we operate usually in the first red square. And now the emotion, because it's higher, works on the second one, nearest to the 100 times to the factor of 100. And now it creates a new environment. By you putting a pad or a CO2 pad or a plasma pad over the cancer, you bring a balance that the energy used for the structure moves further down back to the 10.7 that it's used to. You see the cancer reduced or literally eliminated. You introduce a process. The process you introduce is a new environment. That's all you do. Your Keshe Foundation in all its health, even in our contracts, we never speak about healing and treating and whatever. We always speak about the process because this is a process you introduce. So if you have a cancer, you want to find the cause of the cancer or you want to change the cancer, first of all, you have to find the reason the cancer is there to start with, which is emotional. And then the other point which we consider is, do we need to put a GANS-coated CO2 on a point of the cancer? Or do we need to put the same thing on your head as a hat, in the head cover, that its field balances the emotion in the body too, in the brain side, in the emotional side? That would we see a faster reversal of the cancer? We are going to, this is something which I've done a few times in the process of the development of the technology. When you have a cancer, you go and see where the cancer is, and you put a pad on the cancer, you put a what do you call it, a GANS layer, as I explained, it's been done by some people, and then you expect the cancer to go. But the problem is, why don't you use the same thing on the brain directly? Would it create a new cancer of the brain, or would it bring balance? And then, because you bring the emotional part of the brain into balance, would the cancer disappear overnight in the physical part? Because the energy of the emotional part is much stronger than the physical part. I think you find the answer there. The process is to understand the cause. And up to now, that's what I told you. We've gone into the plasma technology. We are not in nanotechnology and GANS technology, which you are working and you're busy with. You are left behind. We have moved on. This is what I was explaining to the Chinese in the Chinese teaching. You have to move on. You have to address the new understanding of the work of plasma. The emotional part of the body is the strongest part. And its conversion dictates the power of the plasma at the matter state. So when you change with a CO2 pad or with a what do you call it, the normal pads, which is sold as a belt, around the head, would we bring a condition, different condition, that the emotion finds its own balance? And when it finds balance, because it was the cause of the cancer, is not there to exist, it cannot support the existence of the cancer overnight disappears. It takes less than 3 hours to do it this way. If you do it the right way. What do? You change the level of the emotion to balance, to bring to balance according to what it is. But you have to make sure the CO2 gas you use is a CO2. It hasn't got other gas of materials in it. It doesn't carry, what do you call it, copper or whatever else in there. You have to be very selective. Some of you will do and says it caused me more problem. There's something wrong with it. But the only thing is you have to blame yourself for not being pedantic in how you use and what you use as material. You can reverse if you know what to do and the way to do it. Then in the coming time we teach it. Once the technology opens up, I'll show you how you can reverse any cancer which is emotional within less than 3 hours. Irrelevant of how many cancers are around the body. But you have to move into the plasma side. And I will not introduce this technology for the time being because, first of all, I still stay alive. And secondly, the process needs a lot of understanding. If you make a mistake, the mistake can have serious consequences. But if you understand and understood in the past teachings that plasma, which leads or is the essence of the creation of the emotion, is so powerful that in stepping down can lead to a matter state of what you call a cancer, then you understand if you change that slightly, the cancer which is supported to emotion cannot exist. Because if you go back to the teaching, for a cell to be created at any level of energy, you're on the camera, it needs 3 things. You need the emotion, which comes from the blood. You need the neurosystem current flow, and you need the lymph. So when you change the emotion, which is the strongest, these 2 cannot be supported to create the same thing as when it was a cancer. The cancer within minutes disappear. It's like taking somebody's carpet under their feet. It has no ground. It's so simple, and none of you have seen it. And you look for something somewhere. You don't create a cure. You create a change in the process. This is why cancer has been an enigma in the language of medicine, because they never understood this simple process. You have blood, which is your emotion. It works at 10 to the power of, let's say, 10 strength plasma. This guy here works at 10 to the power of 1. And then what happens? You need to bring this to a level in the transition of the neural system to become a cancer cell, at this level. At 10 to the power of 10, you create a cancer cell. Now you change the emotion on the top that it finds its balance, and this becomes 10 to the power of 9. You don't do much. 10 to the power of 9 and the 10 to the power of 1 of the lymph cannot lead to production of this cell. Voila. I have tested it. 3 hours maximum for reversal of any cancer. No, you change the environment. You have this water. Where is my water? This is what none of you understand, and I've been waiting for months, and somehow nobody sees it. This is the water. This stays liquid as long as it is in this temperature and pressure. If I take it to another pressure and temperature, it freezes, become ice. I change the environment. In the cancer, in a cancer state, we don't change the environment. We change the strength. At this strength, the cancer, yes, it creates a cell we call cancer. You change the strength of the emotional part, which is the powerful. At the moment, all of you, with your CO2 on the cancer and the rest, you're fighting a lost battle. You already lost because you don't understand. Now we're going into plasma technology. You have to understand, we don't talk about the nano, we don't talk about changing the gases and the rest. We go for the source, the emotion. Emotion is powerful. You take from it or give to it or bring it into balance. When this changes the balance at 9, the information, the energy comes, and the lymph strength has not changed. It cannot produce a cancer cell. Voila, done. Cancer is not the cause of the death. The cancer is another variation in development of the evolution of the man's physical body. And all of you, you put lymph, you put pads, you do this, you do that, but you're dealing with the foot soldiers. The marshal sits on the top. You deal with him. Here you have to fight with 1,000 soldiers scattered all over the body. You can deal with the general, one general, the marshals follow the soldier. That's all you need to do. And this is not a cure process. This is a change of environment, understanding the process of the plasma. Any disease in the universe you come across in the space technology, you just have to understand this. Change the strength of the plasma. If plasma of a cancer of liver happens at 10 to the power of 12, it cannot happen at the 10 to the power of 11. You don't go fighting every cancer cell. You go to the boss and you change here at the brain at 10 to the power of 11. The combination is not there. The material for conversion is not there to do. At 10 to the power of 11 is a normal cell and it's a nail cell in the middle of the heart. It cannot be produced, so it doesn't get produced to start with. You change the process. Which one is easier? Chemotherapy, all the shambles with the physicality, or just go to the boss? In the new plasma technology, we don't even use the guns. We put you in a plasma environment condition and we just change the level of the emotion. You walk out within seconds, no cancer. The world of medicine is finished. In the space technology, we don't need. That's what I said when we started last week, 2 weeks ago, with a plasma technology. Everything you have done is written off, it's gone, doesn't exist anymore. You work with the plasma, you find solutions within seconds. You work trying to battle with the matter, then you have to evolve the matter. You've seen it. Go back to your teachings. Go back to your understanding. You took, I did it just a few minutes ago with the Chinese teaching. You took a matter which is composite molecule and you change it into a nano layer on your coppers. And then you release it as a GANs. Here had no power. Here is so powerful that with a small amount of it, you can produce all the energy needed for the house. So you decide. You got to change the course of understanding. This is what I told you. The people who work around the GANs was a transition, short transition time for the understanding of a knowledge. Whoever works in the GANs, he works in a dead ground. They're finished. It was for a short term to understand the position of the energy transfer. Anyone you see anywhere working with GANs and calling the GANs groups and the rest, it means you're back in the ancient time. You haven't moved on. You're already dead and buried. We work in the world of plasma. We had to take you out of coma of the plasma into the GANs state, because then you could see it. But the world doesn't work in the world. The universe doesn't work in the GANs state. It works in the state of plasma, free plasma condition. So you have a cancer, understand the cancer. Work through the cancer process with the understanding of the plasma. Now you see a lot of things start lining up with the past teaching. If you change one parameter in the emotion, in the what you call energy transfer, or you call the information transfer neurosystem, or the lymph, you change any of these three, you cannot produce the same thing. Impossibilities, because the environment for it doesn't exist. And the easiest thing is go to the neurosystem, try to work the neurosystem itself, comes from the plasma transfer from energy of the emotion to transfer of it. Neurosystem is just a transfer current flow of the emotional current, but not the volume of it. This is the potential, this is the current flow. And this is the respect to the minimum. This is your live line. This is your neutral line. This is the earth, the ground level, lymph. You don't need to do anything. You just need to change one parameter. Can you keep on changing parameter? You keep on putting pad on the cancer, it goes, but it comes back again. Reoccurrence cancer, because you don't solve the problem from the top. To solve the problem from the top, you bring balance to the emotion. Then the condition does not exist for a cancer to be. I have seen cancer reversal in less than 3 minutes. So how do you want to handle it? Because the information transfer is so strong in this level that it forces it. It suddenly doesn't exist. To keep a stronger field lump or a cancer to exist, you need to feed it continuously with energy from the emotion. Go back to all the teachings I've done and you've been deaf to. You do not die of cancer. No one on this planet has ever died of a cancer. We die of lack of energy, because all the energy goes to the cancer cell to be kept. There is not enough to run the rest of the system. How easy? None of you ever understood. Now we work in the plasma technology. Do you need GANs? Do you need nanomaterial? So now go back from the beginning of the time of the teaching. We had the physical doctors who were explaining layer by layer how things are. And after that, it was explained how we look at it as a plasma technology. The information is carried to that part of the body. Nobody, not a single person, from the creation of time has died of cancer. But Everybody dies of cancer because cancer is a stronger field and it takes too much energy. When there is not enough energy for you to eat, to support life, you cannot think, you're tired, you go to sleep to repair. This is the process which you have to understand. None of you should ever say, what happened with cancer of this or a cancer of that. If you come back and you say, we used the pad and this happened, that happened, you are fighting foot soldiers. Foot soldiers are millions. Colonel is one. You are used to battle that way. I'm used to do this. I handle one person, I know where it is, I can find it. Here, you have a cancer in the lymph, you have a cancer in the liver, you have a cancer in the kidney, you have a cancer in every part of the body. Where are you going to fight? Or you change the information carrier of the plasma of the information, there is nothing to fight because it's a different environment. And this guy is used to a 10 to 12 power. Now there is no 10 to 12 power. It cannot convert, it cannot receive. It's gone. Understand the totality of the plasma work. Otherwise, you run, as you have done up to now, into a lot of rough times. You do not even need in a space to create pad or whatever. You can transfer energy through the emotional part of yourself to the one you receive it. Because then you have changed the position again. Even if you go from 10 to the power of 12 to 13, this here is used to 12. Cannot be, it doesn't exist. So what do? You always bring a balance to go one lower. Then it cannot exist because then it's the cell power of your toenail, and toenail cannot live in the liver. So it doesn't get produced. Ta-da! Liver cancer gone. Most of the cancers, if they are not what we call non-malignant cancers, which comes from accidents, yes, all of them. 100% of the cancers which are lump, stomach cancer, bladder cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, any kind of cancer. Don't forget, we hardly get cancer in muscles and tissues here. It's very rare. And even that has an emotional. Yeah? So why do you go and fight a lost and in 10,000 bunkers where it's very easy, you can process this very rapid, done. And don't forget, to battle this, there is no muscle in the brain. So you cannot use copper oxide because it doesn't work in other strength. You have to find matching, dog for dog, cat for cat. And the only way you find it is in two conditions. One, because the brain is made of carbon, brain has oxygen, and because the emotion of the man is dependent on zinc, when you make a copper oxide, what do you call it, copper nano-coated with a zinc, you have everything in it in your CO2 zinc plate. I gave you the recipe of life from day one. You've all been blind to it. You go and buy yourself, man or a woman, a box of Viagra today. All of you. Just go, not to use it. You can use it if you like. But read what's on it. Zinc. Zinc is the control of the emotion of the man. So, when you take zinc, high dosage, you go and eat oyster, aphrodisiac. What's in it? Zinc. Controls the emotion. What does zinc do? Arouses your emotion sexually. So, it has a connection with your emotion. In the zinc copper coating, here, you already have some zinc in it. The pad you cover to put here, it covers the emotion and the connection to the carbon CO2, which is in your brain. Voila. Cancer gone within minutes. But you have to get the dosage right. You have to get the right strength copper, the what you call carbon. You have to attach it to the right combination. Within minutes, there are no cancer. Gone. Because now we speak about plasma technology. In transfer of plasma, in the process of transfer of gravitational magnetical. In this way, when you do the cancer like this, it's like the pen. You hold the pen goes, because you transfer both gravitational and magnetical in what is not needed. The brain finds the balance in its emotion. Both is gravitational and magnetical. There we are, the man I wanted to. You missed the biggest part. Listen to it tonight. So now you see, when I told you, you can cure, you can cure, you can cure. This is the terminology for the doctors who have no answer. You can process, you find an answer immediately. Don't forget, I come from generations of Hakims, which is doctors. Generation and generation of people who saved lives in Iran. So, do you want to do that? Go and find a herb, cut it and transfer it. Or go for the source and find the energy balance of the emotion. In a space is the emotion which creates you, not the rest. When you have an emotion, true emotion, you reach the soul. Reaching the soul through the emotion, you go lower, it goes transfer of the energy of the emotion to become to the ground, which is the matter level, which is dictated by the lymph. You create according to transfer of energy between the two levels. Done. You don't need to buy tablets, you don't need to do this, you don't need injections. If I would have released this knowledge to you a year ago, I would have been dead in the coffin. Now you all have it. The Chinese are there. There are hundreds of people, thousands of people listen to this in the coming time. Now it's not my life. You can all be dead by the pharmaceuticals. Easy. If people understand what I've just explained to you, chemotherapy is dead. Buried and dusted. The whole thing, the whole understanding is go back to your CO2 kit. You can never change character with this technology. You only take what you need. You only apply what is needed. If pharmaceuticals get hold of this video after teaching, they will destroy the whole website. But please duplicate it and pass it as many as people you can tonight, that nothing can be done. There is no need for chemotherapy. There is no need for any cancer treatment. But I keep my time. I know a lot of people tell me, you let a lot of people die, but you have the answer. I have the answer for the progress of man towards peace. We all die. Death is part of the natural process of the growth of the man in intelligence. But you want an answer for this? Try it. Don't go and bandage the liver cancer. Don't go and bandage the prostate cancer. Go and bandage the emotion which started it. And then, once you create what we are teaching you to work with plasma, you can create a balanced plasma of the brain, because where it is done in the brain, even the emotion part is sectionalized. This section deals with the emotion of the prostate. It has changed its strength. The rest is still in balance. When you put a CO2 kit as a process, as a plate, now this, the same as if you remember when I told you about the pen, how it works, it connects with, in consideration with the rest of the balance of the tissues around it to find its balance, that it finds its balance with it, that it brings it to balance, you feel no pain in 10 seconds. There is no difference. The CO2 zinc plate of the GANs does the same, finds the balance between, this is out of balance. Transfer of the energy, voila. 10 seconds, you should be able to see the first initial stages of any cancer. Now, you're all dead. Pharmaceuticals will kill you. Please release this tape, this session, to as many people as you can, as fast as you can, and then let them report. If it's wrong, I accept responsibility for talking rubbish. But if I'm right, which I am right, you'll find death with cancer is an impossibility. But there's a problem. Now, every year, 1 billion die of cancer. What are we going to do with the extra 1 billion next year? We were burying them, now we have to feed them. We were taking 700 million across 7 billion, now we have to take 800 million instead. The balance of it. No one, if you understand this process, should die of what we call lack of energy due to the creation of new cell structure. That's how simple plasma technology is. That's why I don't teach you nano, I don't teach you GANs anymore. The golden age of GANs is buried because it never had a golden age. It never started to have a golden age. You work with plasma. You work with plasma. There is no GANs state. It's a state of plasma in the universal condition. The fools play golden time because it's golden 60s and 70s. It never had a life. So now you see how fast, when you understand the working, you can change everything. You don't need to work with gases and the rest. Create a magnetic gravitational field of the copy of the brain. The brain has to totality balance with it. Done. And when it's not there, it cannot support the changes. Go back on the teaching. Go back on the teaching. Where I taught you from the beginning. If you go back and you have a toe, I'm a cartoonist, so that's a toe, that's a nail, and that's what it is there, and that's your bone. When the emotion gravitational magnetic field comes, which is constant flow plasma, then you have the lymph plasmatic flow, which is circulating, and then you have the flow of the emotion current balance difference between the two. If you go 10 to the power of 8, let's say, you get the nail. You go to the power of 10 to the power of 8.5, 10 to the power of 8.7, 10 to the power of 8.9, 3 layers, you get the skin. If you get here 10 to the power of, let's say, 7, what you get is the bone. Because don't forget, the lower strength, the harder material becomes. Now, look, what has changed? The current flow, the lymph is always the same. The emotion is the same. The current flow is decided by central brain system. And that's how you change your muscles, your tissues, continuously on a regular basis. When this changes through the emotion from, let's say, 10.15 to the 10.16, now this material here has a different dimensions to it. This here becomes to operate at the new rate of 10.9, or just about, let's say, 10.8.95. Yeah? 10.95 in this state, in the bottom layer, means a change in the upper layer, that is your skin cancer. A new material has to be created. Lymph hasn't changed because it's still coming. The information hasn't changed, but the more powerful has led to a different condition of a higher strength. And that higher strength creates a different condition on the top layer. Voila. Now you call it a cancer. And now because it has to feed a higher strength, it takes energy from this, 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 and once all these take energy to cover that difference, it has to go other places, so there is not enough for you to walk. There is not enough for you to breathe, you die. Go back to fibromyalgia. What happens in the fibromyalgia? Fibromyalgia is when a lot of energy is lost due to mental exclusion of the suffering. As I said in many talks, you have been abused 200 times by the abusers, pedophiles. Every time they abuse you is one stab wound to silence the pain. And to silence that pain, you need 2 calories, as you call it. They have done whatever they've done to you 200 times. Now you need 400 calories every day just to cover the stab wound in the social structure of the body of the psychological damage. You eat 1,600 calories a day. Now you have only 1,200. And minimum you need to live is 1,000. What can you do with 200? You're exhausted, lack of energy. You're sick, you sleep. The same here. Lack of energy because it's getting somewhere else. Voila, you never die of cancer. No one has ever died of cancer. Impossibilities. Human body never destroys itself. So, there we are. Took you 10 seconds to change your pain. Takes 10 seconds to change any cancer. And it takes 3 hours for it to show the first signs. But I never use it because it's for the man to decide if he wants to handle his emotions. Otherwise, interfere with his will. And thou shalt not steal. But now that you have started handling the plasma, you can do it to yourself without me. I cannot enforce my will on you. I can reverse any cancer immediately. Now you can do it to yourself. Thou shalt not steal. If the decision of the physicality has been to terminate life, I cannot change the course because that soul has already made commitment in another dimension for its existence. The ethics of the conduct of the use of the plasma is so deep that the man does not even comprehend it. They tell me, if you can do cancer, why don't you do your own cancer? My decision is mine. I work and I live by the order of the universe, not by the man. So why don't you do it yourself? You're allowed to do it. A physician has no right, because when the emotion decides to change, you change it. It's done by you. You prepare the rest of the body for a longer term torture to be in a physical dimension. That's your problem, not mine. Physicality is nothing but pain and suffering. And why do you commit somebody to extend to the suffering? It's their decision. So now you know, you use the pen, you saw the change. Understand how to create a plasma, the strength of the brain, which is composition of this, and you see how long you'll see miracles. Nano-coated plasma technology works for every cancer. It does. Because you allow and you change the dimension of the course in a plasmatic condition, not in a matter condition. Don't use that, use the water of it, which is there, and allow even to wash your head with it. You've done the same. Put your head in and go to sleep in it. You've done the same, because somewhere in your sleep, you find a balance between the emotion, why you wanted to terminate life. You do the same with ILS. You do the same with MS. People just walk out without anything. But you have to get the condition right, and you have to make it acceptable to the emotion to accept the termination to the extension of the life. Because once you start this process of extending the emotion to change the physicality of the cancer, now you have to see to the list of the supply of energy to what is the structure, physical structure of the body too. Because when you decided to terminate the life, you have stopped all these processes. You have taken the key out of the ignition. It's a process of a shutdown. Now, when I do it, I have to convince the soul to support that all this process starts again. Because when you decide to die, when the body decides to go into cancer, it plans a total shutdown step by step. If you look at the cancer death, it's sequential. Where it's going to store till it's finished. Where it's going to dispose of till it's done. Where it's going to be done till it's over. Everything gets planned very rapidly. When you change here, and you don't see any change here, it means the emotion in the interaction with the soul have taken the switch out. It has already gone through the shutdown switch, which means the soul is happy for the time of transition. You cannot change it. You don't see cancer, but in the same time, the body will die physically, because the switch system has already kicked in. Because you have taken the plug out. You don't die of cancer, but you die of natural causes. Because the natural causes was decided by the emotion at the time of the start of the cancer. You understand? You cannot change the course of interaction of the plasmas. You cannot change the course of the decision of the universal condition where the soul exists. Now, you use the pen, you've seen it working, try this. And if it doesn't work, it means the soul has committed itself to the end. Because the life is too painful for the physicality to carry on. So that overrides this process. So now, we buried Monsanto. Now we bury the pharmaceutical with the cancer chemotherapy. Because if this system doesn't work, it means the body, the person, the soul has committed itself to the end. This morning, I opened the phone and I received a call. There was a text that one of our team, his father has died. We just spoke with him a few minutes before and he died a few minutes after. And he already explained that he's tired of living. So the soul was committed. When the soul commits itself, you cannot change. So you accept the evolution of the elevation of the soul to a higher level. So you can do whatever you like. The condition is, as much as you need the emotional strength to create the physicality, the emotional strength needs the structure of the energy of the soul for it to exist within. The soul is the second sun to the physicality of the self, of the emotion. You cannot change it. Now, go and try to cure as much cancer as you like. If the soul is committed, you have no say.
David asks, my dad needs oxygen assistance. If I add CO2 GANs to a cup of life, with the cup provide him with extra oxygen? I'm looking for a way to get him off of oxygen assistance. His lungs have been damaged by a chemical from work environment, and he gets less oxygen than he should. I was hoping to find a way to get the energy of the oxygen to him using your technology, and thought maybe this could be done with a modified cup of life or some other variation.
I have answered you on the health teachings of the first week. You got to understand, if you go back to the health teachings of the process of the working of the lung, I think it's the 10th or the 12th teaching, which now is off. You go back to the teaching of the lungs. You'll find the answer there. Understanding that you do not need the cup of life. What I explained just now about the cancer on the emotion, this is a physical. You can transfer the energy without use of any cups. It means you have not understood the work of the plasma. Walk away from nanomaterials, walk away from the GANs. That was a transition. You've been stuck in matter for millions of years. Now, to understand the work of the plasma, you had to go through to understand separation of the molecular structure to atomic, and separation of atomic structure as a nano into a free plasma. For you to see the effect and the work of the magnetic fields, I did not introduce the GANs for it to become a new, another, what do you call it, a stumbling block in understanding. It was for you to see the effect of the result of his energy, that you could trust, understand how the work of the universe works, that you can use and tap into the universal energy plasmatic condition. Those who have already made a golden age of it, they are already golden age dead. They call it fools and horses. Those horses are already fooled and stuck with it. Move on into the plasma condition. Understand plasma has no tangibility. Plasma has no direction. It has strength. And this is the only way I could carry you through. As we said in the teachings of today. Book number 1 was about the matter, because you had to understand a lot of things about the matter which was not clear. Then we spoke about the transition of the matter as a plasma. We call it the structure of the light. Then we spoke about the total plasma, the creation of the universe, which is the totality of it, or the origin of the universe. So now you should understand where and how the technology works in the universe. Has no confinement, has no dimension, is everlasting, and is created and shall stay the same, because it evolves and revolves around the same fields which continuously go from one point to another, and in different strength create different illusions of the stars, physicality of the man, and the rest.
Is it the same for the unbalanced psychic state of the person, meaning Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, insomnia, anger management, anxiety, addictions?
It's all the same. Find out what is the need. What does mean addiction? Addiction means satisfying what is not being satisfied, and you go for it to be satisfied. What hasn't been satisfied, that it brings you to a point of addiction. What does addiction do to a man? It brings him to the fetal condition. No energy, needed to be looked after. I'm infant, I'm weak, do something. It means the child or the man at the point of birth did not receive enough to fulfill the emotion of being created. So he makes himself addict to anything, to be literally not in control of his life as he was at the point of birth, that somebody does something with it. So if you can bring a balance into the emotion of the need to be satisfied through the plasma, you find people walk without addiction. We've seen it in Birmingham, in England. Addicted to cocaine, they cannot even stand the cigarette, let alone the cocaine, because the satisfaction was to have a feeling that the father left me with responsibility. Now I've been fulfilled with the energy which I was expecting from my father. I walk again. We have videos of it. You have to understand, why do we get Alzheimer's? Because we don't want to live in the emotional trap which is set for us by the others, or we created ourselves, we got ourselves in a position that we cannot get out of it. We want to forget it. Alzheimer's. Parkinson is the same. Do we need to make all these elaborate situations to cure something, or would we go for the emotional need? Where does the Parkinson comes? Look at the hand. Which hand? I explained this before. Repetitiveness of it. Satisfied sexual, demand. You find out there is no Parkinson, because you touch what the body was missing. You mix the emotion with physicality, and it finds this repetition is a cancer. The only thing which none of you understands, comprehends, and I keep on going back to, the whole structure, physical body of the man is to keep the emotional part alive. And when the emotional part is unbalanced, physicality shows itself in different ways with different what we call diseases. Bring the emotion into balance, you have no problem. Now we open the door of the plasma, work with the plasma, forget about the matter, the nano, and GANs. If you understand it and can take that leap, you'll find out, as I explained. You've seen it with a pen pad, and you all use it because you've seen how it changes your paint pads and the pen pens. And now, if you understand it, with the plasma technology, is the conversion of receiving and giving to bring balance. The pens you have, you understand. You put two coils around the center. One is gravitational, means it can take what you don't need. One is magnetical, it gives you what you need in the plasma condition. That's how you reverse and no pain. You can do the same with your brain, with the emotional part. First of all, you have to find out where it is. Secondly, you have to create a field of the widest strength that interacts with it. body of the man is one of the simplest, disgusting things God ever created in the universe, because it's not used nothing but to abuse itself and the others for it. I hope at least you understand the process of how to help yourself. If it doesn't work, it means the person you're trying to help yourself, even in disguise, they want to get rid of cancer. In fact, they needed to commit themselves to what they already have committed themselves. Respect their wish. At least respect the wish of the soul.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh.
Thank you indeed.
And that ends the 41st Health Teaching Workshop for Tuesday, September 29th, 2015. Thank you, everybody, for attending.